What's up, people? It's Saturday morning, and guess what I want to talk about? Yeah, cheese. I'm gonna do a series of smaller videos because I don't want to rack everybody's brain on the different steps in cheese making and a little bit of the science behind it. I'm not gonna get too much into it, but just kind of wanted to talk about the different processes and the steps and how they lead up to the final cheese. This thing right here, she's a beaut. Um, she's just a pretty damn cheese. We're gonna put this all to the side now, and I'm gonna use this as an example. We're gonna make some cheese this morning. Um, I'm not gonna use this. I just got this from my buddy. I gotta top it yet. But you see that there? That's milk. That's milk. That's what you need to make cheese. That's the very first step in cheese making, is to get yourself some milk. And then the other parts follow behind it. And we're going to talk specifically about culture and how that starts a cheese making process, because that's kind of one of the most important parts. Obviously, it's the building block of making cheese, and how it works with this here milk. Well, you can see that cream, can't you? I'm all kinds of excited. Damn it. Sorry, people. I gotta back up. I screwed this up big time. The first step in cheese making, backtrack, is you have to have a cup of coffee. Okay. Step one complete. Step two. We're going to talk about the first process, and that is adding the culture and the start of the acidification process in building your cheese. The very first step is necessary in building your cheese. For those of you who didn't deep dive too much into it, like I did when I first started, you don't just throw milk in a bucket and then put some of this stuff here. You just don't get yourself some bacteria and just chuck in the bucket because the directions say so. And this is where the science behind it comes in. I was talking to my buddy yesterday about this, so I figured I would do a series of videos on it, because the instructions are often always flawed, sometimes unintentional, or just out of pure speed of maybe making a buck at starting a blog or posting a video or what have you. I make mistakes too. I'm not saying I'm perfect, but really what it boils down to is, if you really begin learning how to make cheese and you really start to understand the fundamentals, you'll realize that you'll probably have been making a lot of cheeses, and you'll get to some point in the cheese process and you're like, why doesn't this work? Let me try this, let me try that, let me try this, let me try that. It's too wet. Oh, I should dry it out more. It's not forming together. The curds are, they're too wet. They're retaining too much moisture. I got to keep pressing. I got to keep pressing. I got to keep pressing. And a lot of times, that is necessary. It's 100% the truth if you want to try and save the cheese. And I am 100% an adjudicator for those processes, because what it means is that at some point you got to a place where you either made a mistake or you're reading some sort of instructions that are flawed, and you missed a step because the step was incorrect and it told you to do the wrong thing with the wrong stuff for the wrong period of time, whatever it may be. So let's start with the basics. Okay, milk. It's got all kinds of fats, proteins inside of it, and in order to make cheese, you need something to work on these proteins and the caseins within the milk to begin the process to prepare the cheese for how it's going to taste, how it's going to look, how it's going to age. All of those things start with the culture, the acidification of the cheese. Every single part that moves forward with how the curd is going to set up, how it's going to coagulate, how the curd is going to set up, how the cook is going to go, how the drain is going to go, how your pressing is going to go, excuse me, and how your cheese is going to end up. It all starts with acidification of this milk. So with acidification, there's a process involved, and the process involves getting your milk and adding some sort of an acid to it, a bacterial acid. And there are many of them out there that work to convert milk into a particular cheese. Wow, that wasn't even on. Glad I didn't shake it up to show you that there's cream separation there. That would have been bad. So it starts with the acidification, and different cultures that you use in your cheese are going to convert your lactose, the sugars in your milk. And I keep saying milk, by the way, people, just as a caveat here. If you're lactose intolerant, you can make cheese out of that lactose-free milk, lactate or whatever, as long as it's not ultra pasteurized. If you can find some, it's in a jug. Those are typically not ultra pasteurized. It's the ones in the cartons. And it's scary because you look at the date and it says they'll be good for like the next 2.5 months. If you're preppers, that's good. But if you're making cheese, that's bad. So you can do this if you can find some lactose-free milk, because it supplies glucose instead of lactose, which is all it's necessary is having sugar. So getting back to the culture, adding your particular culture for your particular recipe to your milk is the first starting process, and it's the staple in starting your cheese. And each culture specifically acts on the milk to create to consume lactose, and to lower the milk's pH, and that's necessary to get the type of cheese that you want. I talked about before having what they call the crumble at the end of the cheese, and the crumble, which means you may make a cheese and sometimes it doesn't even appear to be too wet, and you wax it and it'll be in there for months, and it may start leaking from the wax, it may not. But anyway, you cut that thing open, right, and it's almost like a chalk, and the cheese never sets. It will never set. It'll be kind of sour. It'll be like wet chalk, and when you cut it, it'll just fall apart. You won't be able to eat it. I mean, you can, it won't kill you, but it's not going to taste good. And that is because you had too much acid development from any number of reasons. One, first step in a recipe, you got a recipe, and I've seen this, it's in there. I wanted to pull this one out and show it to you, but I have a recipe that I got from somewhere, and it tells you, people, in the recipe to add 11 packets of C101 to 4 gallons of milk. It's not 11, people. That's 1. So if you are new to cheese making and you don't really understand the science behind it, and you're just going by what somebody tells you, well, you're going to have a lot of problems, a whole lot of problems. And many of these recipes, again, either intentionally or unintentionally flawed, because people just didn't want to waste their time with it, and they wanted to put it up there to show people that they're special or make a buck, or I don't know, maybe gain new friends on social media, whatever it takes. When you're messing with somebody's culture, then that's what they do. So that's why it's important to understand these steps. So let's get back to it. Acidification, right? So you need a starter culture. A starter culture is going to be specific to the type of cheese that you're going to create. You're going to add that culture in permitted amounts, the required amounts, and this goes back to reading the science behind cheese. And that particular amount of culture is going to consume lactose within the milk and produce the starting acidity that you want to begin with. And that's not the end all be all, because each one of your processes could alter the acidity. I don't do this, but I will recommend, because I did it in the beginning, and it's probably necessary for you guys that are new to this and you haven't done it a lot before or haven't spent years doing it, I recommend getting a pH meter of some sort, or pH testing strips for cheese, and testing your milk. Because if you don't understand the steps firmly and you don't grasp the concept of each one of those steps, it's very likely that you're going to have problems with your cheeses. And I know because I screwed up cheeses for years. Years. I don't even want to talk about it. It's so painful. Um, and what's crazy is you think about the acidification, and there are like commercial producers, right? Um, they all control their acidification through by like crazy means that you wouldn't think of. So like some of these places, they'll actually go, you say you add citric acid, right? You add citric acid to mozzarella to create the perfect balance of acid with your mozzarella. You don't have a particular culture to use, so you use citric acid. In some cases, they use things like hydrochloric acid and phosphoric acid. I don't know if you guys know what that stuff is, but for instance, the hydrochloric acid, it's in, what's that stuff called? Begins with an M. I can't remember. Brain fart, too early. I need coffee. Muriatic acid, see? Bang! Just like muriatic acid, people. Do you know you use that stuff? You pour it down your chimney and it wipes away all the black stuff. I mean, it literally eats away anything it touches. It'll eat the skin and the meat right off your fingers. And so will phosphoric acid. If you guys look at the back of your can of Coke, you'll see phosphoric acid is in there. But they neutralize a lot of the acid's qualities by adding other types of acids that make it safe for you to put in your stomach. But if they poured that into a stainless steel tank, let's just say, and left it there by itself, it would just eat a hole in it. It's kind of crazy to think, right? I should have spent more time in science class, but I didn't. For some reason, I was too fixated on animals as I was a kid. Anyway, that's why I make milk and cheese. So that would be what's considered like direct acidification. And how that all works and how it impacts your cheese is the first part of it is like the curve formation, for instance. So what it does is when you add that culture and you add that acid to the cheese, it reacts with the milk. It reacts with the like the fats, the caseins within the milk, and it helps those caseins form the curds, helps them bind together and make that solid part of the cheese. So that's kind of the first step. It also imparts like the flavor of your cheese, right? And how, like I say, how it's going to feel, like the texture of it. It, as I spoke about earlier, having too much acid will change the texture, the feel of your cheese. So if your pH is your acidity levels are way too high, you'll end up with the chalk, and you don't want that. And if they're way too low, you may not get a good bind on it. That's why it's important to have a meter in place to kind of get you where you need to be. And the culture is just that's not the only thing that impacts the pH. Like I said, it could be your stirring. You could stir too much. It could be your cook. It could be, you cooked it too high or for too long, or, you got lax and you missed a step somewhere and now you're trying to recover. But if you don't follow the necessary steps and you don't understand the change that may affect the milk and you don't correct on the fly, then you're going to end up finding further and further in each step, you're going to end up correcting. You may have to correct a lot at the end, or you may not be able to recover it, like I said, as in the case of the crumbly cheese. Also impacts the flavor, as I said earlier. The culture brings a specific flavor along with it, with the acidity that it produces from the consumption of lactose. So that's where you'll get you have these so many different acids available through bacterial acids available, is because each one of them presents a different flavor profile when it's converting milk, the lactose and converting it into an acid. They also can change. Like, I went back to the texture, I'll go back to it again. It creates the specific firmness of the cheese, like how supple it's going to be, what kind of a texture it's going to have throughout in general, not just if something goes wrong or it all goes right. You want certain cheeses, right, to have a certain texture. This one here is going to have a very dry, you see it, it's going to be very hard and dry when it's done. Others are soft, like Cotswolds. They're a very creamy cheese. Ones my girlfriend likes, the Cotswolds, the more kind of semi-soft cheeses, if you will. So you have cultures to make your very soft cheeses. You have cultures to make semi-hard cheeses. You have cultures to make blue cheeses. Each one of those react to the milk in a different way to produce that texture. Moisture control, probably, like the moisture in the cheese, as again I kind of spoke about a million times leading up to this. It really controls. It starts the controls for the actual development of the moisture in the cheese, and kind of sets that threshold for where you want to be. If you did like 11 packets of C101, you'd find that your cheese would probably just, I don't even know what it would look like. One day maybe I'll just make a cheese with 11 packs of C101 just to see what the hell would happen to it. But I imagine it would be interesting. So it is responsible, pending and given the fact that you follow all the steps after that, and that they're correct for providing the right amount of moisture in your cheese throughout the aging process. I think the final piece of it is probably, when we get aging or I guess preserving the cheese throughout the remainder of its sit. That acid that gets converted from the lactose is also responsible for creating the initial environment here, right here, right? It creates the environment within the cheese to naturally repel or support bacterial development for that particular type of cheese, right? That's great stuff. I mean, I love it. I'm getting kind of excited right now. So excited I need to get another cup of coffee. So yes, let's go all the way back to them steps. So you got the acidification, going the wrong way. Acidification, like the coagulation, your curds in your way, you're draining, your cooks, you're draining, you're forming and pressing, and you're aging. So we get to the aging piece for the milk and that cheese. Let's get this out of here. Get this back over here. The final piece for the importance of the bacteria and acidification is the actual cheese aging itself. So the addition of that culture, provided that you get a good cook, everything's working out for you, this provides the platform for the specific ranges of bacteria to be able to develop. And I know it sounds crazy, people, but it's true. Certain cultures allow for and actually present a more thriving environment for certain bacteria that are needed to finish the aging process and develop your final taste. Certain cultures, specifically with the cheeses like the Dambo, when you make a cheese, those cultures provide an acidification in the cheese and create an environment that the thermo bee just loves. Like, it loves to grow on, right? You want to create a place that makes the bacteria that you need, if you want to do a surface bacteria, a place to thrive. It also creates a place where you want to keep bacteria that you don't want to thrive. So all of this, the bacteria, the acidification, all of these steps culminate together in your end phase of cheese making to provide a situation in which your cheese can sit downstairs in a cooler and it can be happy, it can grow, it will age, it will change, it will alter the taste, you'll get your mold development or whatever you need, and in the end, the cheese that you want. So, I hope this helps you guys out a little bit. I didn't want to put these all together because science it's like a mind blower, right? But what isn't is this coffee. And this, my friends, is what's going to get me through to the next video. First, I got cheese to start. You didn't see that, did you? But it's over there. There's a pot over there. And I gotta get this milk into a pan to separate it so I can pull this lovely cream off of there. Can you see it? See it right there? Yep. That's some good milk right there, people. Anyway, kids, I gotta go, and I'll be posting more on each one of the steps. I'm gonna try to make a couple today, maybe, and see if I can, get another set of guys that's more specific to the actual scientific part of cheese making and how that's going to affect each one of your steps moving forward, and hopefully be able to explain to you ways to correct from each one. All right, guys, have a good one.